when the Maple Grove HOA drained the natural spring that had flowed on my property for generations. Citing a flood risk, they had no idea they were unleashing nature's perfect revenge. As their pristine lawns turned to swamps and designer homes flooded with the very water they tried to control, I uncovered a web of corruption deeper than anyone imagined. "They can't take your water," my wife Emily yelled, slamming the HOA notice onto our kitchen table. My hands shook as I read the words that would upend our quiet life. The spring, a bubbling lifeline on my family's land for over a century, was now labeled a flood hazard by the Maple Grove HOA. Lillian Carter, our HOA president, had been fixating on my spring since moving in 6 months ago. During her first neighborhood walkthrough, she called it an eyesore. "That muddy puddle drags down property values," she sneered, ignoring its role in nourishing local wildlife and cooling our corner of Springfield during blistering summers. The notice gave me 30 days to eliminate the water source or face $500 daily fines. This spring wasn't just water, it was my grandfather's legacy. He'd built stone paths around it, planted willows now towering 40 feet, and taught me to skip rocks across its surface when I was 5. 2 days later, I attended the emergency HOA meeting with photos of the spring through the seasons and a petition signed by 12 neighbors who cherished it. Lillian sat at the head table like royalty, flanked by her loyal board. Clara, my next-door neighbor who'd always borrowed sugar, now sat beside Lillian, avoiding my gaze. "The spring poses a significant risk to our community's foundations," Lillian declared, waving a thick report. "This geological survey confirms potential flooding could cost millions." I stood, legs trembling, voice steady. "That spring predates these houses. There's never been a flood. Times change. Water tables shift," Lillian countered smoothly. "We can't risk our children's safety for sentiment." "What children?" I asked. "The nearest house with kids is 3 blocks away." Whispers filled the room. Some neighbors nodded with me, but others murmured about mortgages and insurance. Clara spoke up, eyes down. "I've noticed more mosquitoes lately. Standing water breeds disease." That's when I realized this wasn't about flooding. Lillian wanted my property's value to tank so her developer friend could buy it cheap. I'd overheard her at the summer barbecue, talking about maximizing land potential. "I demand to see this survey," I said. "Who conducted it? When did they visit my property?" Lillian's smile tightened. "The report is confidential to protect the surveyor from harassment." "That's not how assessments work," called Mr. Thompson, a retired lawyer down the street. "Homeowners have a right to review reports about their land." Lillian's face reddened. "We're not debating procedure. All in favor of spring removal." 7 hands shot up, board members and their allies. The motion passed. In the parking lot, I caught Clara. "Why? You used to bring your grandkids to feed the ducks at my spring." She glanced nervously. "Lillian promised to approve my home addition if I supported her. I need that bedroom for my daughter's visits." My heart sank. Lillian was buying votes with favors. Driving home, I wondered how to fight a rigged system. That night, I couldn't sleep. At 2 a.m., I heard vehicles. Peeking out, I saw trucks near my property line, dark figures moving toward the spring with equipment. I grabbed my phone and flashlight, racing out in pajamas. "Hey, this is private property." The men froze. Jacob, the HOA maintenance manager, stepped forward. "Just doing preliminary measurements, authorized by the board." "At 2 a.m. without notifying me?" Lillian emerged, clipboard in hand. "The HOA has 24-hour access for safety inspections. It's in your contract. This isn't an inspection. You're planning something." She smiled coldly. "We're proactive about safety. Go back to bed." I stood my ground until they left, but I knew they'd return. The next morning, I called 3 lawyers. 2 declined after hearing HOA dispute. The third wanted a $5,000 retainer to review my case. Desperate, I visited the county records office. Hours of searching revealed a bombshell. The surveyor Lillian hired was her brother-in-law, whose license was suspended 2 years ago for falsifying reports. I also learned Maple Grove sat on an ancient watershed system. My spring wasn't decorative. It was a critical pressure release for underground water flow. Blocking it could destabilize the entire neighborhood. Armed with this, I requested another HOA meeting. Lillian denied it, citing no new evidence. But I had a plan. I built a website with my findings, photos of the spring's century-long history, the truth about the fake survey, and shared it on our neighborhood Facebook group. Comments poured in. Residents recalled the spring's history. Others questioned Lillian's rush. Some board members messaged me privately, admitting they felt pressured to vote yes. Lillian sent cease and desist letters, claiming defamation, but truth isn't defamation. I kept posting. Then Mrs. Larson, a 60-year Maple Grove resident, posted a game changer. That spring saved us during the 1978 drought when city water failed. We drank from it. It's essential. People listened, sharing memories and doubts about Lillian's motives. The tide turned, but Lillian wasn't done. That night, an anonymous caller warned, "Drop the website, or you'll regret it." The disguised voice carried Lillian's threatening tone. At dawn, heavy machinery woke me. Industrial pumps lined my property, roaring as they drained my spring. Lillian supervised, sunglasses hiding her eyes, while Jacob directed workers in orange vests. I ran out, still in pajamas. "Stop! This is illegal." Lillian turned, unfazed. Article 7, Section 3 of the HOA bylaws. We can address immediate safety hazards. She waved documents. Judge Harper signed this emergency order last night. My spring, crystal clear for generations, became a muddy pit. 100-year-old lily pads shriveled. Ducks waddled, confused, around their vanishing home. I called 911, but the operator called it a civil matter. Animal control needed 48 hours notice. Helpless, I watched my family's legacy drain away. Emily emerged, recording. "This is criminal," she said, voice shaking. Jacob stepped forward. "Ma'am, stop filming. This is private HOA business." "This is my property," I countered. "And that's my spring you're destroying." By noon, the spring was gone. A crater of cracked mud where water once sparkled. The willow's leaves curled from stress. Clara appeared, planting roses. "Sorry about your water feature," she said, eyes down. "Property values should improve now." "You realize that spring fed groundwater for this area?" I asked. She shrugged. "Lillian says the city water system's fine." That evening, I met Tom, a hydrologist friend from college. He studied my property maps and surveys, face grim. "This is bad. Your spring was a pressure release for the aquifer system. What happens without it? The water goes somewhere, likely through people's basements." Hope flickered. If I could prove the spring's importance, I might force restoration. We spent a week gathering data. Tom installed monitors around Maple Grove, measuring soil moisture and groundwater. Readings showed rapidly building pressure. I tried presenting this at the next HOA meeting, but Lillian had changed the rules. Only board members could add agenda items. Frustrated, I went public. Local news covered the story. Historic spring destroyed by HOA. Reporters interviewed Mrs. Larson about the 1978 drought. Environmental groups expressed outrage. Lillian countered with a PR campaign, painting me as a disgruntled homeowner spreading lies. She filed a defamation lawsuit. I countersued for property damage. Legal bills mounted. Then the first basement flooded. The Wilsons, 6 houses down, woke to 3 inches of water in their finished basement. Insurance called it groundwater intrusion. Uncovered. 2 days later, the Martins reported seeping foundations, then the Fosters, then Clara. I watched Clara bail water from her basement, her roses drowning. Part of me felt vindicated but mostly sad. This was preventable. Emergency HOA meetings became weekly. Residents demanded answers. Lillian deflected. Isolated incidents. Old pipes, poor drainage, nothing to do with the spring. But Tom's data showed the aquifer, without its release valve, was forcing water through cracks, destabilizing the water table. I shared Tom's findings on Facebook. Comments exploded. My sump pump's running non-stop. There's a spring in my backyard now. My foundation repairs $50,000. Property values plummeted. 3 houses went up for sale. News returned with headlines like, HOA's decision creates neighborhood nightmare. Lillian blamed the city, weather, global warming, anything but herself. She even suggested I'd sabotaged Maple Grove. But Mr. Thompson, the retired lawyer, dug deeper. Follow the money, he said over coffee. Lillian's brother-in-law didn't just fake surveys. He owned a drainage company. We found Lillian had awarded his firm a $2 million contract to manage water issues. The same firm that drained my spring, now paid to fix the chaos it caused. I filed a complaint with the state attorney general. Investigators arrived, subpoenaing HOA records, interviewing board members, and documenting water damage. Lillian tried to resign quietly, but residents demanded a public meeting. The Springfield School auditorium was packed, homeowners waiving repair bills and insurance denials. When Lillian took the microphone, boos erupted. She spoke of unforeseen circumstances and good faith. But no one bought it. Then I played my ace. Emily had recorded the morning they drained my spring. In the background, barely audible, Lillian told Jacob, once property values drop, my developer friends will buy the block. We'll make millions. The auditorium exploded. Residents shouted for Lillian's arrest. Board members resigned on the spot. Clara apologized publicly, admitting Lillian's promised favors. Investigators took Lillian into custody that night, charging her with fraud, conspiracy, and misuse of HOA funds. Her brother-in-law's company collapsed. The developer scheme imploded. But Maple Grove still flooded. Insurance deemed it a man-made disaster, leaving homeowners in financial ruin. It took a federal disaster declaration to secure aid. Engineers worked months to restore natural water flow. My spring was rebuilt, but full recovery would take years. Costs exceeded $10 million, mostly from Lillian's seized assets and HOA insurance. Lillian got 15 years in prison. Clara, now leading a reformed HOA, tends a memorial garden where my spring flows, teaching kids to respect nature. I learned the best revenge isn't schemes. It's letting nature and justice run their course. Water always finds its way. At 3:27 a.m., a knock startled me awake. Through the peephole, I saw Greg, my neighbor, drenched and frantic. The water's everywhere. My basement's flooded, 3 inches deep. I grabbed my jacket. Something was wrong. Greg's house sat uphill. Water shouldn't flow that way. At the county records office, my fingers blackened from dusty files. I found a 1952 geological survey showing Maple Grove sat on underground water channels. My spring was part of a system stabilizing water pressure. By capping it, Lillian had turned our neighborhood into a pressure cooker. I called Tom. You're sitting on a water bomb, he confirmed. That spring was a safety valve. Block it, and water finds other ways out, through foundations. Using borrowed ground-penetrating radar, I mapped water movement under Springfield streets. Water pressure had doubled in 2 weeks. Half the neighborhood could be underwater by spring. At the packed HOA meeting, residents complained of damp basements and cracking foundations. Lillian, in her designer suit, insisted, isolated incidents. I stood holding the survey. This proves our spring was essential for water management. Clara jumped up. Lillian increased property values by 20%. Why trust you over her? Murmurs of agreement rippled. Lillian had bought loyalty with lies. Ask why she rushed this, I pressed. Why hire consultants who never visited? Why ignore decades of balance? Lillian smiled tightly. Motion to adjourn. Wait, Greg interrupted. My insurance says the flooding's from disrupted groundwater. They won't cover it. The room erupted. Lillian banged her gavel, but order was gone. Outside, Tom whispered. The drainage contractor's owned by Lillian's brother-in-law. She's getting kickbacks. Can you prove it? Working on it. Be careful. She's got powerful friends. I installed security cameras. At midnight, Footage caught Jacob tampering with my water meter, trying to frame me for the flooding. I backed up the video to 3 drives. More basements flooded. The community pool cracked from pressure. Even Lillian's allies questioned her. I researched water rights law, finding the HOA violated state regulations by not obtaining permits for drainage changes. Library articles revealed Lillian's prior HOA resignation after financial irregularities. A pattern. Clara appeared at my door, mascara streaked. My roses are dying. The yard's waterlogged. Lillian promised this wouldn't happen. Did she promise you anything else? I asked. She nodded. A board position, landscaping votes. She gestured at her ruined garden. I showed her my research. Her eyes widened. She's been playing us all. Will you help me expose this? Yes, I have emails. More neighbors shared stories of bribes and threats. Lillian had built a corruption network to line her pockets. The Department of Environmental Protection took notice after my complaint. Investigators sampled water, interviewed residents. Lillian hosted wine and cheese events, spinning tales of improvements, but attendance dwindled. Reviewing Clara's smuggled board meeting notes, I found payments to the drainage company matching deposits in Lillian's account. A cease and desist letter arrived, threatening defamation. She declared war. I was ready. Water exploded through Lillian's kitchen floor during an emergency meeting. She'd been denying the spring's role in flooding when her tiles buckled. Everyone out! I shouted as water sprayed. Board members scrambled, shoes ruined. Lillian stood frozen, watching her countertops crack. The aquifer had found its breaking point, under her house. Residents gathered outside, shocked. News vans arrived. A reporter asked, "Is it true the HOA president's house flooded?" Before I could answer, Lillian burst out, pointing. "This is sabotage. He did this." I stayed calm. "I've warned about this for weeks. Nature doesn't follow HOA rules." Edward, our treasurer, stepped forward with a folder. "I can't stay silent. These are the real financial records. Lillian's been skimming HOA funds." The crowd gasped. Lillian lunged for the documents, but Edward held firm. "Page 7, I urged, recalling suspicious payments. It revealed transfers to LC Consulting, Lillian's shell company, matching drainage contractor payments. "This is a setup." Lillian shrieked as water gushed from her house. Investigators arrived, collecting evidence, documenting code violations. Clara testified, "Lillian promised my property value would double if I supported spring removal." Neighbors revealed reduced fees, committee positions, and approvals Lillian offered. Insurance investigators confirmed HOA negligence, denying claims. Residents faced ruin. "We trusted her," Greg said, surveying his basement. "Now we're losing everything." I organized a meeting at the Springfield school gym. "We can fix this," I said, presenting restoration plans. First, remove corrupt leadership and recover stolen funds. Security cameras caught Lillian loading HOA laptops and shredded documents into her car. I called the sheriff. They intercepted her at the county line. Her arrest made headlines. HOA president caught fleeing after flood scandal. Her mugshot showed a mud-splattered designer outfit, eyes wild. During interrogation, Lillian revealed years of embezzlement across HOAs, targeting communities with natural features for profit. At trial, I testified about the fake surveys, illegal drainage, and tampered meter. Clara detailed bribery. Edward explained financial fraud. Lillian's defense claimed community benefit, but prosecutor Anna Lee dismantled it. Security footage of Lillian counting cash with contractors sealed her fate. Guilty on all counts. Fraud, environmental violations, conspiracy. She got 15 years and full restitution. As bailiffs led her away, Lillian spat. "I hope you're happy." "I'm not happy," I replied. "But I'm relieved the truth is out." Emergency crews worked as another basement flooded. News ran our story. HOA president's greed creates disaster. My phone buzzed. Some thanked me, others blamed me. Maple Grove was divided, but the truth was out. Emails surfaced showing Lillian planned the scheme months before complaints, writing to her brother-in-law. Target the water feature. Create a problem. Offer our solution. The jury deliberated 3 hours. The judge called Lillian's actions a betrayal, sentencing her to 15 years. Recovery was slow. Insurance denied claims, citing man-made disaster. Jacob apologized. Lillian threatened to fire me. My kid needs medical care. I understood but couldn't fully forgive. Help our community heal, I said. Tom warned, restore the spring within 6 months, or the aquifer could collapse, affecting 3 neighborhoods. Rain fell, pooling in once-perfect yards. Nature reclaimed what we'd controlled. 6 months later, I stood knee-deep in mud, directing restoration crews. Careful with that pipe. Workers maneuvered around the spring site. Clara approached with coffee. I miss your spring, she admitted. Now an environmental advocate. The aquifer's stabilizing, Tom said, checking his tablet. But we're not safe yet. Federal funds and Lillian's assets barely covered costs. Residents pitched in, elderly couples made sandwiches, teens cleared debris. A ruptured utility line, illegally installed by Lillian, halted progress, flooding the site with contaminated soil. This is what she wanted, a neighbor complained. No, I said. This is what happens when corners are cut. We're doing this right. Excavating, we found a Native American water management system, stone channels regulating the spring for centuries. Dr. Lisa Brightwater, our indigenous consultant, explained, your spring was part of a network keeping this area balanced. We blended traditional wisdom with modern engineering, making Maple Grove a model for sustainable development. Schools brought students to learn water ecology. Clara started a community garden with responsible irrigation. The day we reopened the spring, hundreds gathered. Clear water bubbled. Children cheered. Adults teared up. Thank you all, I said. Especially those who opposed but learned and changed. Clara, now HOA president, announced, new bylaws require community input and expert consultation for environmental decisions. Property values recovered as Maple Grove attracted eco-conscious buyers, known for innovative ecology, not HOA drama. Lillian's seized mansion became the Maple Grove Environmental Education Center, displaying her corrupt emails, and fake Clara tended the Springs Garden, teaching kids nature's value. I gave tours explaining, the spring showed us everything's connected. Control nature without understanding, and problems arise. Some families never returned, trust broken. Others faced repair costs, but we learned to question authority and respect natural systems. The spring gained official protection status, safe from future HOAs. State officials praised our response. You turned disaster into a blueprint for stewardship. Clara and I sat by the spring watching fireflies. Remember when I called it a gaudy water feature? She laughed. We let someone convince us nature was the enemy, I replied. The spring became resilience incarnate. Families picnicked. Photographers used it as a backdrop. New residents vowed to protect it. Lillian faded, reportedly living quietly elsewhere. Did she grasp her breach of trust? The spring flows strong, whispering respect, balance, vigilance. Her greed awakened Maple Grove, turning disaster into transformation. The spring she tried to destroy became our reborn community's heart, proving cooperation, understanding, and harmony triumph over control, profit, and dominance.